What's up, geniuses? Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Rob Markman. It's Friday morning. Y'all know why we here. Rahel is in the building. Sam is in the building. Rana is in the building. Graham is in the building, all right? My whole Genius team is here, man. We're going to have a dope episode for y'all today. Y'all know why we here. J. Cole's The Off Season has finally arrived. It's early Friday morning, and we're here to unpack it, right? I don't know about y'all, but when we get these big releases in hip-hop, I love nothing more than to just sit with my people and discuss it, laugh, joke, dissect it, and just have a really good time because that's what the music is for. So I got a panel today of people who I love and respect dearly, all right? First up, she is a young West Coast icon. She started in the world of radio. She used to work here with us at Genius, and now she's running her own thing with the Letty Set Go podcast. Letty, my sister, welcome back to For the Record.
Thank you for having me, Rob. It's Cold World, guys. I'm so excited to talk about this.
Cool. We don't want to hear your Hove takes today because your Hove takes about him being from Los Angeles.
Just so you guys know,
is
you
horrible.
started it.
No, just we're going to move on. Next up is my man. Y'all know him. First of all, his rap opinions are strong. He just launched his own do-rag line. He's wearing the do-rag today on it. Do-rags, all right? You might know him from the Rap Radar podcast. He has a new show on Complex called Complex Brackets. He and J. Cole used to have the same barber. Again, you couldn't tell by the do-rag because it's always on. Brian B. Miller, man, my brother, welcome back to For the Record.
What's going on, Rob? Yo, I got yours in the mail. It's on the way.
I need that. B. You rich. Take the do-rag off, man. Come
Absolutely.
on.
Shout out to the middle class.
All right, last but not least, we have my man who doesn't text back. But the reason why is because he's so busy. He just started his new podcast with Shay Serrano. That's the homie. It's called No Skips. It's a very dope music podcast. You should check it out. He also interviewed J. Cole for the new Slam magazine cover. He's just an all-around dope dude. Brandon Jinx Jacobs, welcome back to Genius, man. I missed you.
Rob, what up, man? Yo, it's crazy. I'm watching you do the intro. I'm like, Rob is really, really crazy good at this, man. Like, you just floated through all that, man. I would have taken me like 4 takes, man. I'm glad to be on your show, bro.
I would have had 5.
I feel you, but, you know, they didn't call me to write the J. Cole Slam cover, brother. So you have a superior skill set. You know what I'm saying?
This morning.
You have the right to dream, though, Rob. So it's all good.
I sure do. We're going to talk about that later. I want to get into the offseason, man. Look, check it out. So Cole has been teasing offseason since late last year when he just simply wrote the title on a piece of paper with the caption, I still got some goals I got to check off before I scram. Then we get the interlude. There were a couple of Lucy's that ended up on the album. We got a doc. We got the Slam cover. And it all led up to this release. I just want to start with, what were our expectations when because I didn't know what to expect. I thought the offseason might have been a mixtape. I don't know if that was just his time off. He also wrote It's a Boy on that thing. I was like, is he planning his projects around the birth of another kid? Like, I didn't know what was going on. But I just want to throw the question out to y'all. B-Dot, what were you expecting as Cole started teasing this and slowly rolling it out?
I was expecting a classic, something that was at a high level. I remember when he was, I forget what festival it was, but it was in Las Vegas before the pandemic, and he was teasing out this rollout. It was like almost like a presidential campaign.
For the fall off, which still hasn't come yet. Right.
Right. And I was like, okay, what's to come? And then he releases this joint. I'm like, okay, I'm excited. I wanted to see what Cole has up his sleeve because it's been a long time since we heard from him. And, he said this album's been in the making for years. So I was highly anticipating something that was going to be at a high level.
No doubt. Letty, we're going to call you Dreamville Letty today, man, because you've done a lot of work with the
I'm with it.
What were you expecting?
Okay, so I think
you heard the album before all of us is really what you're saying.
I think from what he was teasing, I felt like there was going to be some sort of timeline. It feels like even with like the Slam interview and the documentary, he keeps talking about going back and like having these revelations. I think like he does often, right? Like 2014 Forest Hills Drive was a going back into time type of piece. And I thought that maybe he would streamline us, even with the recent LA Leakers freestyle. The first half of it seemed very old school Cole flow and bars. And then it switched up to KOD type of flow. And so I felt like, okay, maybe he's doing this intentionally to have us go on this journey of maybe his bio via album. So that's what I was expecting.
Okay, now that makes sense. Jinx, you actually spent time with him. When you were in Carolina, right, for the Slam, for the cover shoot, plus the interview. So I feel like you had some insight on what was coming. What is it? in your summation that is kind of maybe the impetus for this album?
Man, honestly, I think it's a dude.
Can you define those words for those of us that did not go to universities?
Said what?
Sheesh.
Here, I'll do it in the answer. Like,
Thank you.
I think like cause and effect for everything. The thing that really like kicked him off to do this was yeah, I think it's getting older, right? Like, I think he's at that stage in rap, right? Like in previous generations, this is a point where like if this was like the proper rap label of like the 90s, early 2000s, this is when the label starts thinking, who's next? How do we move on? We're in a different space now, and I think for Cole to look at himself and say, I'm one of the vets, I'm one of the top dudes, but I'm also, things are changing in my person. Like, what do I want to do next? And I think when we were sitting down chopping it up, he made it very clear, like, I got things I want to do that may not be in the vein that you all know me, but in the way you all know me, I'm going to come here and check everything off the list. And I think that's what the Dreamville sessions were. I think that's what the feature run was. But it can't just be like flexes. It has to equal something. And I think this is one step in that. Like, I think this is him checking off the boxes. Like, you're not, the last couple times you see me, if I'm going to leave, you're not going to see me down bad. You're going to see me up, like very high up there. And I think that's what this is.
That's funny though, because I don't think he has a line about this on the album, I feel like. But we haven't ever seen Cole down bad. Not since the first album. I mean, he may dress like he down bad. Like Cole has a very just like
On purpose.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's definitely on purpose. It's like this everyman. Like he could kind of roll out of bed and then sell out the Garden and just
Right.
go on stage. That's how it looks, right? But I think that's what makes him relatable.
Rap is so much different now, and it's really more just hip hop, right? Like there's so many different things that we put under the same umbrella. And still, like, he's grown up in the same time we grew up. Like, this is that time where you start wondering, am I falling off? Do people, like, I think I'm doing good, but do people see it that way? You know, we always have that conversation, whether it's like via text or we're watching on the timeline of like, who's going to come through and bar it up? And I think we end up with a lot of music that's entertaining and fun. But when someone comes through with bars, like, it resets all of us. You know what I mean? We start talking in the ways of that we grew up. And I think that's what Cole looked at it. And he's like, look, I'm good at what I do, but I need to do it so well that even if you're not checking for this kind of thing anymore, you are. And I think it's important for everyone that comes after him too, that he kicked it off.
Right. That's a really important point. And I'm going to get to that later because I have a lot to say there. But when you talk about like the way we grew up or the things that we grew up on, the things that were important to us as we were coming up, the album starts off and kind of gives us that with 95 South, right? Like, I don't know about y'all. First of all, I kind of figured he was hiding features when we saw the track listing and there was no features listed. In my mind, I was kind of like, that doesn't necessarily mean there's not features on the album. But when this starts off with 95 South, the first voice we hear was Cameron. And that was the last person I was expecting to hear on the Cole album, first voice. Like what would your thoughts be that, you know, you got the do-rag on, you so New York right now. When you heard Cameron on the album, like what went through your head?
I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, if you would have told me pick a rapper that's going to set off the new J. Cole album, Cameron definitely would have been on my bingo card. But it's kind of in the vein like Cameron had Uncasa set off the Dipset albums, you know? So it's kind of like in that vein. And I loved it. You know, it's Cam's a professional shit talker. Cole's talking shit. It's a perfect marriage. I loved it. And I think that's so dope about hip hop is like, I love the fact that, like you mentioned, he didn't put the features. Like, let's focus on the songs, right? And let's give an element of surprise. Like, let's bring back the magic a little bit in hip hop, and let's have something to look forward to. And I think Cole did that, especially with the intro and all the other songs.
Nah, yeah, no, that was hard. He's definitely talking shit too, and it's like he gets to a certain point. You know, when we talk about the three, that's kind of at the top of the game, and have been, it's, you know, Cole, Kendrick, Drake. They get to a certain point where when they get competitive and they start talking that competitive shit based off of their stats, their sales, the money that they generate, it starts to become unfair almost. It's almost like they're picking on the rest. So when he starts off, Cole been going platinums back when CDs was around. What you sold, I tripled that. I can't believe these fucking clowns. Look how everybody clapping when your 30-song album do a measly 100,000.
It's like Cole could flex, but he chooses not to. And I love that about it.
No, he flexed the fuck on this album. Like, Letty,
As it should.
was he talking about somebody in particular? Do you think? whose 30 song album did immediately hunt it down?
I want to take it back though real quick to like the theme, right? Like the intro of an album is so important. It sets the tone. Whatever you were thinking, it and the way that he started it like got us into like this quick, whether it's nostalgic memories of when you listen to this, or it's just like, whoa, where is he going with this? And I think he gave us little pieces of probably music he would be listening to as he was practicing. Because if you think of those 2000 era, that's when you heard the crunk stuff. That's when you had Cameron in your playlist if you're at the gym, and that's when he was hooping. So I feel like, again, if we're going on a biographical tip of his life, he's taking us into the gym with him with the intro, and he's showing us the songs that riled him up, and he's talking like he's riled up, and then at that point, if you're a rapper or if you're a basketball player, like when you're there talking your smack, anyone can get it. It can go to anybody. It's to the kid you just saw on the court. It's to someone you just got in an argument with, one of your homies. And I think that was the intro of the album, showing us how he practices and like what he can do as light work, basically.
This concept of practice and this concept of drills. I know Kaz had talked about it in an interview. I think it was with Billboard, where he was like, Cole is like, yo, write a verse that it doesn't even have to rhyme. And then write a verse just using one phrase and just keep rhyming that phrase over and over again. And then write a verse to a Busta Rhymes beat and use Busta's flow. And so he also has these drills. We tend to think of drills, if you know basketball, the layup line, the suicides, like it's all this stuff to get ready in the offseason. But Cole, or at least through Kaz, has revealed that he actually has these drills as a rapper. Jinx, did you get a sense of when you spent time with him, what that off season is like for him rap wise, that prep, that time that you put in to get to this point of high elevation lyrically?
Yeah, I think he explained to me like the off season, it's not even so much like it's like between this month and this month, as much as it's like something he made a decision to do years ago. And he was trying to figure out what those drills are. Like in basketball, those drills are defined. You want to run your suicides, you want to do your layup line, you know what I mean? You do your 2-on-3s, all that. But in rap, you're like, well, what should I do? Right? Like, I'm going to make these drills. And then he also shared them, which made him sort of like a coach at the same time. And some of the best ways to learn is to coach. So, the feature run, those are drills. They're drills in front of an audience, but those are drills. Doing the recording sessions at Dreamville in Atlanta, I got a chance to go there and I'm walking around and I'm seeing everyone moving, and Cole is running from room to room, catching vibes, different energy, working with people, learning how to collaborate is a drill. You know what I mean? Learning how to turn songs over really quickly, learning how to be a label boss is a drill, right? And being able to soak up what's important. And then his writing drills are crazy. He's talking about he's writing in 7 minutes. He's making beats in 7 minutes. And he's doing this thing where he's not being so precious about it. And it's crazy to think that a guy that is really at the top of his game, the thing that made him the best was doing things not carelessly, but, with intention, but, not necessarily like I'm going to put this out. And so he created these drills for himself. And the wildest part to me talking to him is that he shared them with other people, right? And so when you hear this album is mad different influences going on at once. Like Letty was saying, like, or B-Dot was saying, like, it's Cameron at the beginning, but then it's crunk music at the end. He's talking his shit, but then he's doing his introspective stuff. He's still telling stories, but he's also just barring you up. I think right now we're watching a guy who's like, I can shoot the mid-range jumper, I can pull up from the logo, I can do a layup, because like a good layup at the right time will win the game. He's doing what it takes to win the game, and he's letting you know my arsenal. I got whatever you wanted. I got it.
That's why that Damian Lillard soundbite on Punching the Clock I thought was so key, because I think Dame is kind of that type of player. Even when you describe like, yo, I got a layup in my package, but I got the mid range, but I could pull up from the logo. Like I remember last year when they were going into the bubble, because Dame is my man, and they was going into the bubble, so I just texted him right before I knew he was about to lock in, like, yo, good luck. And Dame laughed. It was like, luck. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's just something that we say as a response to somebody, right? Like, good luck. But Dame's whole mentality is like, nah, I prepared for this. Like, this is what I work for. There's no luck involved. I'm not, you know what I'm saying, leaving nothing to chance. And I kind of feel like Cole is in that space. So while it's refreshing to hear him rap like this, it's not surprising. You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen him do it, and we know how seriously he takes the craft.
That's why I think at the end of that record, he was saying, popping his shit like, I do this. It's like, yo, just in case you forgot, here I am. Here's a reminder.
And imagine if you practice as hard as you can, like you feel prepared, right? Like one thing that didn't make it into the piece when I spoke to him, we kept the basketball metaphors really on the top of the conversation because it was slam. But when I asked him, he was telling me about like, when someone goes off for 60 and when someone like is on the bench. And I was like, how would you classify this project? He's like, yo, every song. He's like, yo, I'm averaging 40. Like, yo, like every song, like every night I'm coming out averaging 40. So understand, like, that means like I go above that sometimes. And I was like, damn. And he said that with confidence, didn't blink. And I was like, yeah. And then you press play and you're like, yeah, like this is, you're triple doubling on this. And so you got to respect it. And it's because he's prepared.
Real quick, I want to draw into like the docuseries where he was telling Savage about what the offseason was, right? And he was saying that, I'm here, I can't see everyone working together and I'm here like Iverson. And it took me back to that Iverson press conference when he's like, practice, like why do I gotta care about practice? Like Iverson was very kind of like on a high horse that he doesn't have to practice to make his team better or attend practice and stuff like that. So I think Cole even acknowledging that might have probably been a school of thought he might have like subscribed to previously, that now he understands like I gotta practice in order to show up on these songs.
Right. Nah, he definitely showed up. Look, man, he had Luigi trending.
Yeah.
That don't happen unless
Should
a
have been
Mario game
Mario,
drop.
but
That was a hard ball. I'll be staying out the way, but if the beef do come around, could put an M right on your head. You Luigi brother now.
That boy's good.
I don't want to hold it up, but that made me think too. He says it in the doc, I believe, and I can't even tell. I can't remember if it was in the doc or in the piece, but he was talking about like even punchline raps, like at one point kind of getting away from that. And like, if we start to break down all the subgenres of rap, like you mentioned that Luigi line, that's classic punchline rap. Like he brings that in when he needs to. He brings his shit talking in. He brings his sort of like trap cadence in. Yo, it's crazy how formidable his game is. Like he really can go up against anything. And that Luigi lines are perfect. Like that's one of the ones that I heard it, and you do the like hand over the eyes, like
And he had a couple of them, even on the Leakers freestyle. Look, I know people feel a way about Bill Cosby and how but that Bill Cosby, like, it was one of those, yo, did he just say that? You know what I'm saying? And we know Cole's intent as an artist. We know Cole isn't a bad guy, whatever. Like, you kind of know where his heart is if you fuck. But it's like, and I remember being a kid, and that's the same way you feel when Nas said, when I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. It's like, yo, like, you're not supposed to say that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's always trying to push the envelope. Eminem had a lot of those moments or whatever. But I love listening, because Cole's a veteran at this point. He's a veteran artist. And I love when a veteran artist can drop an album and we can still learn something new about them that we haven't, right? And listening to the off season, I'm gonna be real, and I learned that Cole is a liar. He's a damn liar.
Why do you say that, Rob?
Because on Let Go My Hand, when he's talking about with my reputation at stake, I was scuffling just to save face. Couple wins, couple losses. So I'm broken up too quick to call it. My last scrap was with Puff Daddy. Who would have thought it? Now, I expect the line from Puff. Like, Puff, you know what I'm saying? Puff would spin a story. There was the rumor in 2013 of this, I was at MTV at the time, and it was the VMAs after party, the Dream Hotel, and there was a scuffle between Puff and J. Cole, except, Cole comes out and he's like, oh man, people will believe anything. And Diddy is like, I don't address rumors, but, I got love for my bro, man.
They even
We
did
just
like a little
argue.
skit for Revolt, like similar. Like
They
pushing
did the
around.
skit.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
lied to us. There was a scuffle. We knew. I think me and B-Dot knew. I think, all jokes aside, did y'all expect Cole to address this 8 years later? I was surprised that it had coming up because I had forgot about it.
I think the beat allowed him to do that. Like that beat is just so lo-fi and it's just like one of those transparent kind of records. And Cole's always expressed this transparency throughout his music. So I was happy for him to get that off and, show a little bit of vulnerability. But, this is what he do. So
I think it also goes back to like the theme that I am intent to say that he's doing and being biographical, where he's talking about how Puff was one of his favorite artists and then he ended up fighting Puff. And then I think he has a couple bars after that where he says like, I didn't know back then, but now I know too much. And it's kind of like that when you lose your innocence to whatever your dream becomes, like, or whatever your reality becomes as an adult. It could be growing up just and figuring out like, damn, I gotta pay bills now. Or it could be like my idols want to punch me. So I think just him getting into those realizations is what he wanted to express for us.
I also think it's like, yo, when you start coming through and you start talking, like the whole premise is like I'm prepared and I'm not scared. Like the dudes I knew growing up that really weren't scared weren't the dudes who just ran to like the fights they could win. It was the dudes who would tell you about their losses too. And I think Cole's like, yo, bro, I'm a veteran. Like, there's nothing. I'm not scared of no tweets. I'm not scared of no opinions, no headlines. It actually really doesn't matter to me, like, because I'm very good at this thing. And so, like, I'll tell you about the Puff thing and then bring him on the song. Like,
Then brought him on the song to pray.
That's kind of, and it's weird that it is a flex, but it is a flex because like, Puff at this point, like, Puff's Puff, but like, for J. Cole to be like, yo, come on over here on my song. Like, you know what I mean? Come over here on this thing that's going to do numbers in an evening. Like, like it's sort of that, mentality of like, this is how you piece it up. And I'm not scared of you. Come to my world. Give me the vocals on time, like I respect that. And when he did it, it was like, yo, step in front of everything, the good and the bad. Don't tell us just about the, Ferraris. Tell us about the Camrys,
B-Dot, is that the key to rap success? Like, in order for me to get these Rob Markman record streams up, do I got to fight Puff? Is that like...
Only if you want to be top three, because it seems like the top three went through it.
If you can't get Puff, you got to find another label exec and fight the fair one.
Cole, Drake, like, it's a rite of passage, man. Puff be thugging. Puff is like, yo, I survived the Suge era. Like,
Puff's been through a lot.
No, but it's funny. It did make me think of a story, and I think Jinx is right. All jokes aside, and obviously that's good for headlines. That's good for fodder. Like, but all jokes aside, I think Jinx is right that it shows an artist who isn't afraid to catalog his losses and tell us about his losses and the ups and the downs. I remember when I did the first full-length feature on Cole in Double XL. It was September 2009. It was the cover. It was right after Jay-Z did Blueprint 3. So it's the cover with Jay-Z standing in Manhattan, and we profiled Cole, and I wrote that feature. It was a full page. And Cole was coming up, and he was telling me a story, and it actually made the piece about Puff hitting him up, like, yo, let's go hang out. Like, let's go. I think they maybe Governor's Ball or something. Like, yo, whatever. I'll bring the Lambo out. Like, ride up there with me, whatever. Which would seem like a dream come true for an upcoming rapper preparing his first album, right? And I remember that story and Cole kind of blowing Puff off, like kind of ignoring it. Not as a flex, but as him feeling like, I remember him describing that him feeling like he hadn't earned that right. He hadn't put in enough work to get to just hang out with Puff casually. Like, he should be in the studio putting more work because who am I to just be chilling with Puff Daddy? You know what I'm saying? So that probably goes to the same admiration where he's talking about on this record, like, yo, like, I bought his album in the 7th grade. And this guy wants to hang out with me. And it probably had to be the same trip. Like, yo, I bought his album in the 7th grade. And now we scrapping like Nas and AZ on the floor in the Firm Biz video. You know what I'm saying? If you remember that one.
It's funny though, Rob, because it's like, even though we admit Cole is a veteran, in some ways I feel like he's still that little kid that's just listening to the radio with the tape deck and like he's just surprised by the success that he has. Like, he's one of the guys. He's definitely one of the players at this point in the game.
It's I feel like it's kind of like us though, in the sense like we all talk with that like enthusiasm, right? And sometimes maybe it's not in all of our work because like, we're doing whatever we're doing, but it's like before and after the Zoom call, and even sometimes in the conversations, we're talking about like we have an extreme fandom of this thing. And Cole's similar. Like, you talk to him and you're like, he's a big fan of it. And that word isn't meant, negatively at all. I was talking about new guys coming up. He knew everybody, like some niche picks, and he knew who they were. And I think that's how you do it when you really care about it, right? Like I think we see that in athletes like Kobe later on, right? Where he's just like he's a fan. He knows who's really smoking shit, and he has people above him that he enjoys and people beneath him that he's a fan of. I think Cole is on that same page, and I think that's why like the music sounds the way it does, because he maintains that love for it.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think the fan, being a fan, has been like a dirty word, right? Like you can't be the top guy and be a fan of somebody else. You can't be, even in what we do in terms of journalism and media, and be a fan. Like, if I'm honest, that's the reason I've been able to last so long. You know what I'm saying? And I still get a lot of criticism, like, yo, how come you interview? It'd be new guys. Like, they can't rap. They can't. Dog, I'm still a fan of this shit. One of my favorite interviews recently was Moray.
Right.
Like, I'm just a fan of this dude and his spirit and his talent. He's a liar too, because he came on this show.
I saw that.
And it kind of felt like him and Cole didn't have nothing going on. And then all of a sudden he pops up on My Life on the hook. It was a pleasant surprise. Both rep Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Amazing
Shout
sample.
to Jake One on the beat. Oh, the sample.
Mm-hmm.
That's my shit. It's like,
Yo,
man.
the original Pharoah Monch and Styles P record, The Life, is such a spiritual, the way Pharoah just floated on it, and to hear Moray do that, like, it gives me hope, because I'm like, yo, this could open up that song to a new generation, or at least give them that feeling. A highlight of the album, 21 Savage, of course, is on it. B-Dot, talk about My Life, man.
I mean, that record, like, for me, it kind of just piggyback off what you're saying. I hate using that word, piggyback. But it's real. Like, there's a generation that probably never heard Gangsters in the Jungle. They probably don't even know who Pharoah Monch is. But now...
And to no fault of their own. Like,
right.
You just wasn't around for it. It's all good.
Right. But, now, Cole, it's so crazy that 15 years later, we're at a point where people are sampling and interpolating songs that we grew up on now. Like it bugs me out. So I love the fact that Moray and Cole are paying homage to Cole, to paying homage to Pharoah and Styles. I love the record as a whole, man. I love Savage's verse. I mean, what more can I say? It's a great record.
There's something that happens in this album too. The way B-Dot just said it, it's like this album does this thing where he's a fan, and it's like, and he does center his music on himself, but then when he opens the doors, whether it's a Dreamville joint or song or album like this where he brings features in, he really starts connecting the dots between different genres, different generations, different regions. 95 South, he's capturing that era where we're like, we were listening in New York, but also there was something happening down south, and he's somewhere in the middle. And I think he's doing the hard work of tying all the strings together so that we all don't fall apart, so that we don't have the thing in 10 years where there's like, some journalists in these seats and they don't know about this stuff from our time, or we can't connect with them. I think like that's the true role of a veteran. Like that's the difference between like an OG and an old head. And he's headed towards OG.
Shout out to my man, Tim Hotep. He told me, man, you got to be an OG or an old head.
That's where I got it from.
Never want to be an old head, right? That's Tim, right?
He put me on,
like
yeah.
Tim. Yep. Letty, Cole and 21. When a lot came out, that was such a moment, right? And here they are again.
And I think that was probably Cole's, one of his first like steps into maybe being outside of the lane that we would see him as a rapper, right? And it was with the rapper of that moment, 21 Savage. And so for them to come on another song together, this song did have something reminiscent to a lot. I don't know if it was the flow pattern, it might have been something in the beat, but it also showed like that their relationship is beyond just collaborating, even including Savage in the doc too. I felt, to me, that they've really grown a friendship, and I think that it centers around being fathers. I know that on a lot, Cole mentions how when 21 showed up to the studio, he showed up with his children, and that was so respectable, and I honor you as a man first. And so all the other stuff can build around that, whether you guys have differences or like commonalities. And I think it's really cool to see what this is like becoming, him and 21 Savage together.
I also think that when Savage gets on the Cole track, he steps his game up, man. I mean, it's hard to you'd be remiss to say like Savage didn't kill that.
Yeah, it puts him in a different light because as much as that changed our perception of Cole when he hopped on a lot, like it put Cole like in a different. Oh, he is in tune to trap. Oh, like he can, you know what I'm saying? Do this. I don't think we really looked at 21 as like a hip hop guy, and when I say we, I mean the collective we. Like 21, 21 was obviously skilled, but I just don't think we seen him in that lane, and now kind of the vibe that they're creating together, I think is elevating the both of them, and that's weird to say because Cole is so accomplished, but it just shows how much more you can go just to fight to not be put in the box. You know what I'm saying? Nah, that's definitely a standout. Letty makes a good point too about because we learned a lot about Cole here too and family. And maybe him and 21 bonded over the love for their children. Obviously, Cole rapped about 21 bringing his kids to the studio and seemed that he was really impressed by the character that 21 had, especially around his kids. Let go my hand, though we kind of stuck on the puff line, it's kind of at that point when your son tells you, it's about jewels that he passes down to his kids that they can't be afraid. They can't grow up to be a punk. The world is hard. They're going to have to learn to defend themselves. And then that point when your young child tells you, you're walking down the street, it's like, nah, let go of my hand. I could walk myself. I don't need you to hold my hand. It's really, really a dope record. Hunger on Hillside too. He talked about his marriage, right? And infidelity and being faithful, right? I ain't doing dirt no more. I stopped creeping 6 years ago. Fun fucking them hoes until you realize that, you was the hoe. Like,
say that.
So it's funny because even in the Leakers freestyle, there's a lot of sex metaphors. There's a lot of, and how much of it is rap and then how much of it is like his actual real life, how much of it was in the past. But to hear him address that on Hunger on Hillside and then, you realize that you're the hoe. It's kind of like,
I think also, like, here's the thing is I'm always like, rap is tough like that. Like, whether it is a line like that or the Bill Cosby line, it's like, especially as rap's gotten to audiences outside of a core hip hop group, right? Like, you got to worry about how it hits the ear. But then when he said the date on that, he's like 6 years ago. I'm like, there's something about details that's like, all right, like,
you,
all right.
you start doing the math, right? Like, yo, what was out? Da, da, da.
And when you're willing to just put a stamp on it, like, nah, look, I've been all right for 6 years, but before that, I might have been wilding. You got to take his word for it, and then that also helps you understand the other stuff he's saying when it doesn't have that level of detail. It's like, yo, this is rap. This is a flex. Like, maybe don't take this so literally because he can make the efforts to make things very clear and literal and specific. But yeah, you do that on the same album that you like. Like, this album has so much in so many different directions, but it all feels like him. Yeah.
I started doing the math though. It was like 6 years ago. I'm like, is that don't save us? You don't want to be saved? Is that the I'm gonna need my shirt back era? Like, you know what I'm saying? You start
a lot can
no
happen
role
in
models
6
for
years.
sure.
Yeah, no role model.
Kevin's heart.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
real. Like he's done it before. There's so much on this. We could be here all day applying pressure. I thought was dope when he Letty. Who's he talking about? That's why when he just throw a shot or two online, I pay no mind to they benign gestures.
I would
Like,
still
you know
like
what I'm
to be
saying?
friends with the Cole family. But I kind of wanted to piggyback off the piggyback. I think that Cole, when he was rapping on the freestyle, the first half he was talking about bitches. The first half he was talking about like, yeah, your best friend just went down on me. Now it's your turn, right? But as soon as the beat flipped, that's when he started flexing about being on top and having no bitches. So that's kind of why I feel like he and the first half he also says I'm a walking contradiction, similar to Black of the Berry, where Kendrick does that whole flip about hating on becoming who we hate. I think that that's what Cole is doing too. He's showing us that this is how he used to think. And let me show you what I've progressed to, the growth that I am as a man, as a partner. And I think that's really dope.
But I also think he lays the groundwork like, yo, I'm a person. I could slip. I could go, and I could go either
And if
way.
I do, I'm the hoe.
Or if you try to come at me, know like, yo, everything else still works. Like, what's up? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think like that's important too. You know, like he's these dudes are shedding all the like constraints that maybe dudes before them, or not dudes, the artists before them would have had. I think artists today are doing a better job of being like, yo, if I'm gonna be here and you guys are gonna watch every move that I gotta do, you're gonna see me as a whole person. Like you're not just gonna get the photo shoot version of me.
Right. He definitely made me check my bank account after this shit, man. Ain't nothing wrong living check to check, because most have to, instead of capping, why don't you talk about being a broke rapper or shit crazy? I don't know. I got more M's than the real Slim Shady
He was talking
video.
to you, Rob.
I
the
know.
the opening of Amari when he was talking about plotting his escape, and he was just saying something. I was like, yeah, man, like blah 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 blah. He started talking about his money. I was like, all right, well, I might need to figure out how to turn this imagination to a Wraith. I don't know how to do that yet, but like I'm gonna figure it out.
I mean, this is the same guy that was doing donuts in the Bentley Jeep in the mud. But you know, the beauty about Cole is that he's not the ostentatious rapper, right? Like you would think, oh, this guy's a bum. Like he's he's arguably one of the most wealthiest rappers in the game. You know, he just doesn't display his wealth, you know, at the jewelry store.
What did he
And
say? He said like I could be in a Camry or a Rari. I look good in them both. Like he
yeah,
knows like
he's so
I'm gonna be
comfortable in
me
his
either
skin.
way. Yeah, yeah.
Right. I know the shit was different when he showed up to the White House in sweatpants. I was like, oh, this guy's rich. He doesn't give a
Bro,
fuck anymore.
he came to the shoot like that, drove off by himself, and it was like people use regular as a negative term, but it's not. He's just like you meet him at eye level, and so you don't have to spend time working through the layers of like, oh man, are we gonna do that thing where like, like the dance moves? And he's like, nah, he's just tuned in and regular, and you gotta appreciate that. But so when he says he's in a Ferrari, you dig it.
Yeah, I think that's a superpower that he's been able to turn that and become a star off of that. Yeah, he still made me feel broke. Genius. I need a raise. I need more M's, because he's out here dissing me in these raps and he's making me look bad. If they make me look bad, they make Genius look bad. So I got to up my check. I want to close it up. I want to start to wrap it up a little bit. There's so much to talk about. Close is such a close. I'm sorry, it's such a dope story joint. But I just want to get like final thoughts, like takeaways from the album. Like again, within perspective, we've had this for less than 24 hours. We're more. I just like you guys. Like I love talking music with y'all. So this doesn't have to be the ultimate critique or the final word, but for the purposes of this show, living with this album, hearing it a couple of times, Jinx, what are your takeaways?
I think this is some of his best raps. Like it's not like a cohesive thought, if that's how we're judging albums. I think this is some of his best raps. And I think for a dude who's gotten really smart about public perception and like learning how to be like, oh, y'all don't get it. Like let me bring you closer to what I see. I think now you're waiting on the next one, and you'll be waiting on the one after that, and you want to see how he scales up. And he came in with better raps, better concepts, exciting. He knows how to work the audience. Now he knows how to do a rollout, what to hold back, what to give us. I think he's at this point he's a puppeteer. Like he knows which strings to pull. And I'm like, damn. So what's next? Like I'm gonna play this on repeat, but now I'm already wondering what's next. And if you can get people to do that, like you got them, you got them.
B-Dot, what did you take away from this album?
Man, it was a lot of thoughts that I was scattered brain while I was listening to it, because I found myself at the end of the album and I realized I didn't even skip a track. I was really excited by it, you know. So even though we've only had this for a couple hours, I feel it in my heart. I feel compelled to say this is his best work to date. I feel like this is his best album. I definitely think it's album of the year
Damn,
contender.
already it's been less than 24 hours. You
It's
sound like
yeah, you know, but sometimes
you sound like Kazim right now. It was 12:28 a.m. and Kaz was on Twitter.
It's
Yo,
like-
this album is
yeah,
classic.
it's like I sometimes I think love at first sight is a thing. You know, I don't have to sit with something for a long time to understand if it's good. Like I don't have to sit with an album for 2 days. Sit with an album that's under 30 minutes and I have to sit with it for 2 days to figure out if it's a classic or not. I'm not saying it's a classic, but I just know it feels good in my heart.
Stand on it, bro. It's all
No,
good,
no,
man. You got the do-rag
no,
on.
it takes time. It takes time. It takes time. But I feel in my heart and in my spirit, this is a really, really strong album. And I can't wait to see it perform live. I think it's going to be really good.
Letty, I'm gonna give my takeaway because I want to go to you last. I want to end it with the Queen. You know what I'm saying? But my takeaway from this album, I think it could be a big cultural moment. I think we got to this point where we talked about this, where it's like rapping isn't enough, where just being a rapper or just rapping isn't enough, and it is belittled, right? I think so many times critics and even rappers themselves, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm an artist, I'm not a rapper." That Sprite commercial with Cody Shane when he was like, "Oh, we got a world famous rapper," and she was like, "Rapper," like it was a dirty word. Rap is what got us here. I fully believe rap is some of the best songwriting, most complex, layered, cultured songwriting in the world. So, I think for somebody at Cole's level to and he's always been rapping, but to really put the focus on the raps on this project, hopefully we'll get more people to pay attention and change their minds and know that rapping is enough. Because there's plenty of artists in the underground who are still doing it who may not have all eyes on them like Cole. So maybe the tide will start to turn it back a little bit. So I think culturally, aside from this album being great, could be a turning point to where we start putting a premium on rapping again. And you motherfuckers got to show up in that studio and stop being fucking lazy. You know what I'm saying? Hit them drills. That is my 2 cents. Letty, I feel like I want to hear from you. I feel like you do so much work.
I'm actually a little bit scared.
No, analyzing Cole, like you're actually like my go-to when I don't get something or my perspective, or I need perspective, especially when it comes to Cole and Dreamville. I love talking to you, so I had to end this with you. What's your takeaway from this?
Okay, so I think first of all, like as it relates to just the whole theme of off season, these are what he's showing us his drills. Every song is a drill. He's showing us how he's practicing. So then to think of what the fall off is going to be like, right? This is his stretching time. He mentions about how the off season is when he's putting those practice hours in order to make those game winning points and things of that nature. So I just think that we just witnessed what his practice looks like, right? And that's a great thing. I will say that there are lines to me that I can't like not mention. Maybe my reservation for example, on Interlude, when he talks about rolling 60s and follows it up with Nipsey, like Jesus, I don't know that if it's me being extra sensitive to Nip, but there's so much nuance that sometimes you have to look into that before you say something. And I know that's halfway censorship, right? But at the same time, like, there's so much going on with what happened with Nip, and it has to also do with the hood he was from. To use it in a way that might be for like the mic drop part of a song, which those end bars were. And then to me, when you talk about Nip, you talk with a lot of reverence, with a lot of honor. So for him to have ended it with like Jesus and Nip passing, and then following it up with like I'm on your necks, it felt very contradicting. Like, what is the vibe? Is the vibe to honor Nip, or is the vibe to like be on some bravado shit? And so I love you guys. Where we've spent this whole show like really showing love to Nip, to Cole, and I love this man like a personal love, family love. But so when I hear those lines, I think like just because you can rap them doesn't mean you should rap them. And I think that's how people might feel about the Cosby line. Not that it's not fire, not that you don't get it, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think if this is the practice part, if this is the off-season part, maybe for the fall off, just kind of take in those nuances. I know that we know he's good intentioned, but that still doesn't mean the people that may feel a way about these types of lines are wrong too. They can both be right. Like, you can be good intention and it could still hurt my feelings,
Right.
I'm sorry, guys.
Nah. No, that's a poignant point, and it's real, and I think it's constructive criticism. I hope one day, that you and Cole could have that conversation. Maybe he could address it publicly or privately or whatever. Because we also know your connection with Nip and your bond with Nip and Nip's family is closer than a lot of us. I know B-Dot and Nip, we all knew Nip, but I know that's like family to you. So it'll be interesting. I would love to see Cole, and Cole is not a person. He
right,
takes
he's
accountability.
open to it. Yeah.
He'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see how you see like that, and he might explain or whatever. But and I think that's the brilliance of him. You know what I mean? It's like we've seen him. I remember the line. I won't go all the way into it, but the Jodeci freestyle line, which they ended up changing and he apologized for, which was a thing that was accepted in rap for years, just to use those type of terms for mentally challenged people. And the world changed, and it was like, oh, well, maybe, how do I change with the world, with this world that's changing so fast? So, he's an accountable guy. So I would love to see that conversation because I think it would be a heartfelt one. Yo, but the conversation I loved is this conversation.
Same.
Anytime, and it's not bullshit. Y'all know because we speak when the cameras aren't on. Y'all are some of my favorite people to talk music with. And so when we were thinking, when Rahel and I were like, well, who can we get to be on this panel? It was y'all three. And if it wasn't y'all three, it wasn't going to be, you know what I'm saying? It was going to be just maybe two of us if somebody couldn't make it, or me by myself if it wasn't y'all three. So I appreciate y'all. Jinx, congratulations again on the Slam cover. Congratulations on the new podcast with Shay Serrano, No Skips.
Thank you, bro.
Dope work, man. B-Dot, congratulations on the Do-Rag line. Like, it's been long overdue. It's called Do-Rags by B-Dot. Do-Rags by Brian Miller.
B-Rags.
I'm going to get you the two-tone bedazzle joint, Rob, with your name on the side.
Yeah.
Dot rags.
Dot rags. That sounds like something else. Congratulations. Complex Brackets is the show.
Mm-hmm.
Every Wednesday, 12 p.m.
I'm just waiting for my invitation.
Yeah.
Maybe one day it'll come. I feel like Kanye when he was like, "Oh, they always want to be on my shit. They never want me on their shit." That's how I feel with B-Dot. But that's my man.
Soon come.
And Letty, with all you do with the Letty Said Go podcast, I love it. I love the heartfelt conversations you have. Continued success with you.
Thank you, guys.
Again, I just want to shout out Rahel. I want to shout out Rhino from my team. I want to shout out Graham. And I want to shout out Sam because everybody woke up early to make this happen. I appreciate y'all and I love y'all, man. So the next time, this is For the Record. Peace.